Welcome back to another episode of the Ruck and Rise podcast. We're really excited tonight because it is season 3, episode 1. We have an amazing guest here. It's 2025. We're in our new home, in our new temporary studio. There's a lot of new things happening, which just aligns with the year and what we're going to talk about on this episode. So,
yeah, a lot of new things, new studio. So we're sorting out lighting, we're sorting out sound. So hopefully everything is going to sort itself out in due time. And so apparently the lighting we have above me looks like a bit of a halo. So I was going to joke with Sean Taylor. Actually made a comment before we came on that it looked like a halo over my head with the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that there's actually no lighting happening here, so it's just natural, just my natural halo, really.
Just natural glow.
Just natural glow
Mm-hmm.
and natural angelic like being of.
So beautiful, David.
Thank you. So welcome. We have Derek Ratcliffe with us for our first episode of 2025. So welcome, Derek, to the Ruck and Rise podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, and Derek sent me a bit of a bio. We've been working on getting going and having Derek on the show for a while now. It started back in September. I think this was following the what was it? The TAC show? Was it TACCOM or TAC?
Yes, it was TACCOM.
TACCOM, yes. Where we were both affiliated and hanging out with Mad Hatter Industries and selling some merchandise and hanging out with some good people. And Derek and I got to know one another. And I thought, Derek would be a great guest on the show because I'm really excited about the energy that he gives off. And the more I got to know him and the more I got to hear about what he's doing, it just sort of fit what we're about ourselves. So I thought, okay, let's get Derek on the show. And that was back in September. And so I asked Derek to send me a bit of a bio so we could prep this. And life happened and we just got, kind of delayed. And
we got distracted.
And then we bought a house and then that put everything on hold. So we're finally getting Derek on the show. But so Derek, if any of the bio isn't accurate or has changed in the last few months, feel free to interject and change things. But Derek, I have 45 years old, mentally 39-ish. That's what I have, which is great. 18 years in the Canadian Armed Forces Primary Reserves. And I love this quote that you threw in. I have never been as cold, wet, hot, angry, frustrated, sandy, uncomfortable, miserable, and outright ordinary as I have been in the Army. And sometimes I miss it. Actually, I miss it often. I love that. And I think that speaks to anyone who's served and who's spent any time either on an exercise or in the field or whatever. They can attest to every single one of those symptoms or emotions or feelings that you just described there. So awesome stuff. So Derek teaches yoga, meditation, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, cooking, sometimes growing things that you can eat or smoke. He is a private driver and chef to an incredible, inspiring, beautiful wife, 2 wonderful, equally inspiring kids that train martial arts and are also better at jiu-jitsu than he is. Partner in 4 companies and exited a VR startup. I want to question about that after. Recently started the Warrior Girl Foundation. Also want to question about that as well and hear more about it. Supporting young athletes in combat sports. Published author 22 times and counting through mental fitness journals. And then also, along with us, a proud Mad Hatter Industries ambassador. So, did I miss anything?
No, I think that's everything that I wrote.
That's everything you wrote.
Certainly, we're going to get into a whole bunch of it, but like as a bio goes, yeah, I think so. There's a lot to say when you start talking about what you're up to and what you're doing. We can certainly get into all of the emotions that I'm sure you share with me. But as
I was reading those, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, feel that, been there, done that. Yeah. First off, though, I want to check. Are you a New Year's resolutionist? Do you set New Year's resolution goals or anything for yourself?
So yes and no. So not really in the resolution side of things, but I'm a big advocate for planning my year. And so we as a family, this is our third year doing it, but we do something called the year planner. I actually posted in the Mad Hatter Industries in our group chat. Same initiative. It's a free resource. And what it is it's a way to review your 2024 or your previous year and to set your next year. So it's not really like resolutions like I'm going to hit featherweight or I'm going to do this or do that. It's more just like, this is what I want my year to be about. And it has a number of prompts that you can use to review the previous year, what the amazing things were that happened, what didn't work, what worked, stuff to let go of, stuff to forgive, stuff to plan, stuff to be excited about. And then you sort of let that year go and finish it. And then you plan your next year. So what are the things you really want to do? What are the things that you want it to be about? What are, your family goals, hobby goals, mental health and wellness, strength training, all that kind of stuff goes through that. And this journal goes through that. And so that part, yes, very much so. I actually just finished it this morning.
Nice.
Is my year. So I'm feeling pretty excited about my year as a result of going through this. And it also felt amazing just to go through last year and sort of review it. And you go year by year and use all your resources. So like your entire camera roll on your phone and your calendar and all the things that you have that were a record of your year. And you sort of review it, like what worked and what was awesome and what wasn't necessarily so awesome, or what, and then it enables you to plan your year forward. So I'm quite excited.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you find when you go back through the camera roll or any sort of devices that you've used to track the past year, you kind of go like, wow, there was a lot in that year, or there, like I did a lot, or I saw a lot, or experienced a lot in 1 year?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a lot of unexpected stuff too. Like my daughter and I in the summer, we had the opportunity to pick up and just like punch to Cape Breton Island to some friends. And so travel was on my year. Travel is a big part of my family, what we do, what we like to do. And so if we just said like travel, it's sort of like, well, where and what? It's like, well, I had no idea we were going to go to Cape Breton Island and then and take 2 days to punch out there and then take 3 days on our way back, stop off at CFB Gagetown, show my daughter around Gagetown, which was not exciting for her at all.
Not for you, though. Yeah,
it was very exciting for me.
Yeah,
that was the place that I spent. She's like, that looks like a ridiculously terrible building. And like, it was a terrible building. I'm like, I can't even tell you. And so, there's that swamp that I was in. It's like, it's a forest. I don't know. It's like, I know exactly where that was over there, kind of thing, right? And so we got to do that sort of stuff. But it filled with a lot of surprises. And so to go through it, when we get to do things like, I want to travel more, I want to compete, or I want to train a lot, you can set these sort of like high level goals or concepts. And then when you're reviewing your year, you can be like, oh, I did that, or I did this, or I did that. And it helps to deepen the experience.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. So when you look back and you review, are you finding things that, okay, well, that worked, that was accomplished, we achieved that, and then you take that forward into 2025, okay, or do you look at things and kind of go, okay, we were way off track on that, or that approach didn't work, let's revamp things or look at things a little different for this year?
Absolutely, in different ways though. And so so travel is on our list. And so if we have the opportunity to go back to Cape Breton, like we're going to do it because that was amazing. But my wife and other daughter won't do that. They're not a fan of road trips, and they don't really like being in the car for hours at a time. So they have a harder time with that. But my younger daughter and I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's go. Ooh, I don't even know if I get to swear on this.
It's okay. That's what editing's for.
Okay, I'm gonna edit that one up. Okay,
good.
We probably won't, but
You're fine.
Yeah.
But I might. So okay, the occasional one. It's just because we have the familiarity of things, right? I think that
It's fine.
flips out a little bit.
Yeah.
You get one anyway.
I get one. Okay, I'll take my one. Take my one. And so, well, now I forgot the question. Yes, absolutely. The way I sort of look at things, different conclusions come up, and so I'm not really drawing conclusions. I'm experiencing, and so from over the course of us doing this, the first year that we did it, I can't say I filled it out like amazingly, and it wasn't as detailed. second year, maybe a little bit more. And now this year, like I've done it a couple of times. I'm experienced in it. I was looking forward to the experience. I set aside like 3-4 days to really like sit, review, make sure that I was taking the time to be able to go into it and experience my year, then set it down for like a definite couple days, and then picked it up and went into the 2025.
Right.
And so when I'm reviewing the year and I'm looking at what are the things that really worked out or what are the things that didn't work out, I can look at, injuries and what did I learn from injuries? What did I learn about, and specifically like jujitsu, and like, I'm not a spring chicken. I know that. And so, and if I'm going to be rolling with the teenagers I got to protect myself a little bit differently. And I've learned that this year because I have had a couple of setbacks that were really challenging. Like I popped a rib, which was painful. I torqued my knee in a different way and my fingers. Like I really had to start to learn a few things. And so I have to adjust my jujitsu game, for example. So how do I want to adjust the game that I play to make sure that I'm being healthy and I'm able to have that long-term thing, and I'm able to compete a lot as well. Competition is a totally different set, but through journaling, I was able to like figure out how I want to compete and what are the really good things, or what are the ways that I can feel my best when I'm competing. And then also what didn't work when I was competing. So I had an IBJJF tournament this year, my first one in 2024, that didn't go so well. And I learned a lot, and I learned a lot from losing. I didn't get the medal that I was looking for. I didn't perform the way that I wanted to, and I really kind of had to look into that as to why and what was going on and what I learned from that experience. That was a big one. And so in some ways, it's absolutely a celebration of the year. It's super exciting and super interesting about all the stuff that happened. Like, wow, I really did that, and we did that together. And then in other ways, it's like, I got to figure this out. And one of the big ones since retiring from the military, for example, is what's going to be that place, right? Like 18 years is a long time. And I really found a way to operate in the military and operate in the institution at a high level, and I consider a high level, and leaving that into the civilian world, which doesn't have all of the systems, doesn't have the mandates, doesn't have all of the things that the military does. I kind of had to figure that out. And later in the year, I really noticed that one of the things that I do, the partner in the construction companies that I mentioned, or that you mentioned in my bio, I realized that that place and my role there is not going to be the Army, and it never is going to be the Army. And so that was a realization that happened pretty much in December, and has really set an interesting tone for me going into 2025, because I've been able to accept that it's not the Army, and it's not going to be the Army, and I can't force it to be the Army because it's not ever going to be that.
It's operating. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like you're taking a really like mindful approach to that whole process, which you probably apply to your whole life, I'm guessing. Seeing how that's one of the things that we've kind of connected on is just the whole mindful piece of it, but even how you're able to process things. And even if it was things that were going not well, like injuries and stuff like that, you still had this curiosity, like, well, what did I learn from it? Or what could I do differently? Or setting yourself up right now, taking a bit of a break so your body can heal properly, so you can come back just as strong, if not stronger type thing, which is really cool.
Yeah. Isn't it a pain in the ass aging? Like,
Yes and no. So you say
yeah.
that youth is wasted on the young. So absolutely, but like wisdom and where I'm at, I can say that I'm definitely happier than I've been ever, really. I mean, don't get me wrong, behind a 50 cal pumping rounds down range is a pretty like remarkable
experience. Yeah.
And there's a kind of bliss and joy that exists there that is unlike other places. But getting older, it is challenging, but I find a lot more, I don't know, I feel healthier, I feel more fit, I feel differently about where I'm at now. And I also think I'm a lot more handsome.
I would agree, buddy. I mean, I haven't seen pictures of like 20 years ago, but yeah, you're doing okay, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. Other than the recovery aspect of things, that's where I find, because we're similar age, and I find if an injury does occur or a setback occurs, or I just get lazy, which sometimes I do with my consistency with fitness and discipline, then I find it just takes a little bit longer than I'm used to, or a little bit longer than mentally I would like to get back to where I was physically. So
Absolutely.
aside from that, but as you said, I mean, as far as the maturity goes and the wisdom and the life experience, aging, it only brings that, as we say, that wisdom, and then to have that mindset and to have that knowledge of, okay, well, this is maybe a minor setback and maybe I can't do this right now, but I can spin this into a positive outlook and spin this into a positive experience by focusing on something else or channeling my energy somewhere else, and create something better or equally as good from being patient with an injury or gaining fitness again. So at least that works for me anyway. So.
I'm a lot more mindful about my nutrition and the importance of how my body works. I mean, also, like if I had the same knowledge now that I did when I was younger, I don't know, right? Like I know how my body works. I understand my genomes. I understand the mechanics and the physiology of my body, so I'm able to adapt nutrition and a nutrition plan around that. So if I do experience an injury, then or something else, then it's like, all right, well, what do I need to do to heal it as quickly as possible? Well, I know I need to increase my protein intakes. I know I need to, rest, and I need to strengthen the joints above and below, and I need to do all those sort of things. So in some ways, I wonder if this being young and healing at a younger age just through sheer ignorance, if it would have been much faster having the same sort of knowledge that I do now. But we're not getting any younger.
No. And I think very few kind of grasp it at the early ages of 20 or even 30. I think unfortunately you have to live life and you have to experience it before you kind of piece it all together like that with the nutrition and the rest and putting it all together, I think.
And I think just getting older, you start to understand yourself more and you know yourself better. So you just trust yourself, and you also, like, for example, I'm going through perimenopause right now, which is super fun, and for everyone. So my body's totally, like, things are like AWOL right now, but as much as that gives me, like, makes me angry, but I also know, like, okay, I just have to, like, relearn myself now because things are changing. So, like, certain foods that I used to be able to eat all the time and be pretty healthy are starting to, like, upset my stomach and get me bloated. Like, things are happening. I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna be now going through starting this new process of learning my body again, which is sort of interesting, and I think it'll be challenging, but also just be cool to kind of reconnect with myself in that way. And I think I'm going to get one of our friends who's a nutritionalist on board, Jody. We've had her on the podcast before. I think I'm at a point now where I need a little bit of expert help.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, that was like a little side.
It's okay. Listen, I have 2 girls going through puberty, and I'm watching my wife do perimenopause at the same time.
Okay, so you're in it.
It's mayhem on wheels. So
yes, you get it.
I get it. Like, drink water, take a knee, right? Like,
one's hot, one's cold, and
yeah, I'm hot all the time now. It's so weird. Dave's walking around the house freezing, and I'm just
used to be the other way around.
Yeah, I'm just like hot all the time, like sweating, like not hot flashes, just hotter always. I don't have to wear as many clothes when I'm outside. Like,
it's a good
for
time.
Work. And
I think you just started teaching hot yoga as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I just started teaching hot yoga too, which is amazing, and I'm loving it.
Awesome. Good for you.
So much. Yeah, it's so great. The studio that I'm at, Salty Yoga Peterborough, is it's amazing. The people there are amazing, staff, clients, everybody. And yeah, I'm trying to get in there as much as possible, and I'm practicing more because I love it there so much.
Nice.
So I'm going, even when I'm not working, I'm just going for classes, and just like I've upped my yoga consistency.
Awesome.
Which is amazing. I'm almost at a point now where I prefer to go there to do yoga rather than just at home, because I'm finding it's harder to focus at home because you're at home and it's like, oh, I could be doing this. Oh, there's the dog. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Like I don't fully relax at home. Whereas when you're at yoga, like that's the only thing. You can't even bring your phone into the hot room. Like there's no distractions. You're just there. And it's so much more beneficial mentally to be in that space for an hour. And then I find the calming effects of that last like throughout the day or for hours later. So the more I can get in there, the better. And now Dave is going to.
Yeah,
Nice.
before she got on the yoga or on her yoga instructor course, I'll be honest with you, I had never done yoga before, and so I'm coming up on, I'll be 47 next month, and been in sports my entire life, and this year, I want to say like within like 3 months ago, probably 4 months, I don't know. We'll say 4 or 5 months ago. Yeah, in the summer, maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I did yoga for the first time, and I got to say, I'm pretty hooked. And the more that I do it, the more regular I become, the more I enjoy it, and the more connected to my body I feel, and I'm embracing it. So, and another reason why we're excited to have you on the program, because we want to hear about your yoga experience as well, and how you got yourself involved and what it does for you as well.
I'm a huge advocate for yoga. So how I got into it was I was in the Army doing infantry stuff. We were training for the Cambrian Patrol, and we were doing a bunch of stuff. Should I explain what the Cambrian Patrol is? Does that make sense?
No, yeah, you should explain it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly.
Okay, so the Cambrian Patrol is a international patrolling competition held in the Brecon Beacons in Wales, where the weather is horrible, terrible, not good, very bad. Yeah, it is a intense place. And so there was a sergeant major named Paul McIntyre, who was an awesome guy, but hard charger. And he showed up at my regiment one day and said, I'm putting a team together and we're going over to Wales and we're going to compete. And so usually it was only the regular force that got funding for these sort of things. And however he did it, he mooched some funding and was able to do it, which was fantastic. Maybe not mooch, acquired funding. Anyways, he acquired some funding and was able to put a team together. So whole whack of people showed up and like put their hand up like, yeah, I'll try, or I'll go for it, or whatever the case was. But 3 dudes from my regiment showed up for selection. And it was me and 2 of my buddies, and we made the team. And so there was I don't know how many regiments he went to, but I guess he went across the entire brigade, said he was doing it. It was a brigade team, so it was brigade funded. And so like 15 dudes showed up to selection, and 8 were on the team with 2 spares just in case. They also acted as drivers. And so what this is basically like, I mean, the Brecon Beacons is hilly, man. Like it's just a huge contour line. The entire map is just horrendous contour line. So it's a challenging competition. It's internationally known. Teams from all over the Commonwealth show up, and we went to go do it. And it's basically like rucking heavyweight over, big distances over a long period of time. And I think we were out for like 50 hours, I think, maybe, or somewhere around there. It was a long time. It was like it was a long time, multiple days. It was nonsense. But when I was training for that, so what the training for that was, all right, ruck up and like go from here till Thursday kind of thing, right? Like it was a lot of distances, a lot of walking, a lot of breaking in boots, and just a lot of like getting used to having the ruck on and going for massive distances, including hills. So we did a lot of hills, we did a lot of training, and a lot of marching. And so I was in my like late 20s. I think I was a master corporal at the time. I had to take it to motion. I had to go over as a corporal to make sure I was on the team, which I absolutely did, because I wasn't going to miss my spot on that team. So I went over, and me and 2 buddies. Anyways, I was going up the stairs, and like my knees started giving out. And I'm like, okay, like, no, I'm not having this, right? It's like going up, and I was putting pressure on my knee, and it would just like give, right? I'm like, this is not good. So I went and I saw a physiotherapist, and she was like, Buds, like, do you stretch like ever? I'm like, yeah, like, I'm like going for a run thing, like, one of these sort of things. She's like, okay, go do yoga. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, just like, okay, for one, your entire like hip region is not firing properly. So it's all locked up and your hip flexors are like rebar. And so like everything is just all locked up and nothing's firing properly. And it's all going and it's all overloading your knees. And your knees do not have the strength to be able to take your own body plus body armor plus attack vest plus a 60 or 70 pound rock, right? Or and like a radio and stuff, right? Like that's not how that works at all. So like, don't do that. I'm like, wow, okay, but I kind of have to do that. And like, and guns and ammo and like, whatever. Like, stop doing that. Like, okay, go to yoga. Scenery is amazing, and it's gonna save your body. So I'm like, okay. So started to do a little bit of research. Started in like Bikram. Started doing like my wife was kind of into it. I was away a lot at the time, so she kind of went and found a couple of spots. So I figured out Bikram, which was kind of weird because it's a series. It's a defined series. It's extraordinarily hot in the room. It's very sweaty. I'm not stretchy.
It's really hard.
Right? It's hard and it's like not super fun, right? And so it takes a while before you're like get over yourself to being this like, am I doing this right? Like, no, you're not. But like that's yoga. And so we're going through this and it's like this is there's got to be more to this kind of thing, right? So I start looking at, okay, what do I really got to stretch? I'm working with this physiotherapist, understanding more about, largely it was my hip flexors were one of the biggest things. And so like training them, stretching them, and stretching out my entire like kind of hip area was a really big deal. And so yoga absolutely saved my body because I started doing it. And then I couldn't even tell you when that was, and I'm not going to do math. So that was like late 20s. And so 2018 rolls around. So I'm not really sure where the math's going to go in this one, but like 2018 rolls around and I have the opportunity to become a yoga instructor. So I did. And so I took a course and I learned a whole bunch about it and really found out like there's this whole Eastern medicine, Ayurveda, and like tons of stuff and knowledge about the body and about how it all works. And like, oh my goodness, right? What is all of this about? And so in becoming a yoga instructor, I was introduced to a couple of things, right? And like absolutely the Gita and Patanjali's Yoga Sutras and all that sort of stuff, while important in knowledge, was also just the understanding that these guys are doing this work and yoga is really coming from just so you can sit around in meditation for hours and hours and hours kind of thing. And so this idea around strengthening the body and what's it for and how does it work? And it's not just stretching, it's a whole part. Like yoga is a very, the asanas and the stretching part about it is almost a very small piece of what yoga is really about, which is extraordinary. And so I really fell in love with the knowledge and fell in love with the study and the area of the study. And I've really expanded into meditation, also expanded into yin yoga, which is my absolute favorite. Yes, I love hot yoga. It's a lot of fun, but yin is where it's at as far as I'm concerned, because it really helps the tendons, the ligaments, and I really fell in love with that. So 2018, I became a yoga instructor, and then I'd say like 2021 or so, I got my yin yoga instructor qualification. And so that's really kind of helped build my skill set and also the language that I use around guiding and conducting classes and instructing classes has really kind of changed how that works. And then it also fits really nicely with jiu-jitsu and in protecting the joints and opening up the joints and the tendons and ligaments and all that kind of stuff. And with yin specifically, I find it very useful. So that's how I got into yoga.
Amazing.
I like it. Yeah. So from someone who, like, I'm not nearly as familiar with yoga and the terminology and all of it as Ali is here. So what's the basis with yin yoga? What's the premise behind?
So yin is about creating. Yin is slow. Yin is about, it's the yin tissues instead of the yang tissues. So if you're going to think like, you know, some tissues, there's two different kinds, right? Ones that like really love to be engaged and used and like biceps, right? Biceps, quads, right? Your triceps, right? These are your yang tissues, right? And they're like muscle fibers, they're fibrous, they have all the glycogen and all that kind of stuff in them. They love to work. And then your yin tissues are a little different. We're talking about the fascia. We're talking about, you know, the part of your muscle that holds everything in, right? These are your fascia and your tendons and your ligaments and, you know, all of the other kind of tissues and your connecting tissues that keep everything together. So the idea around yin is that you're holding the poses longer. Yin is really hard, by the way, because you're holding poses for like 3, 5, 8, 10 minutes to really sink into things. You're feeling your body like really sink into the poses. You're feeling your body open up, and you're taking that extra time to get into your body, right? This is where yin really taught me that you're not, how do I say this? I might say this wrong, so this might need to fix in editing, but like you're using the poses to get into the body. You're not using your body to get into the poses.
Gotcha.
Right?
Sounds
So it's not just like, is this the perfect warrior 1 or warrior 2? It's like, nah, it doesn't matter. It's more just like, how is this pose helping you access and connect with your own body? And so for me, yin is very much about connecting to my own body and about opening it up and really protecting my own body, because I'm able to reach those extremes and feel my body open up. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, very much. Yeah. Great description, by the way, too. Yeah.
And a lot of the poses in yin, or at least in the classes that I've been in, are really supported. So you're like on a bolster in a certain position, so you can like totally lean on it and like let go.
Gotcha.
I find it is hard for people though to sit still and really let themselves be in that pose for a long time. Like, right, the hardest part is actually like letting your mind just be, and a lot of people struggle with that. I see it even in like a 5-minute shavasana at the end of class. It's like some people love it, that's what they want to be there, that they're right into it, and then you can see there's like a couple people that are like fidgeting, like they can't wait to get going because they're already on to the next thing. Maybe
right.
You know, it's different for everybody along their yoga journey, but it's interesting to like take note of what's happening with people.
It is, and yin is challenging because it takes that time, right? But think about it this way, right? If we're sitting at a desk, right, and we're sitting there working on something, how long are you going to be sitting there working on that thing, right? Is it more than 5 minutes? Probably. How long are we going to spend like bent over, you know, like on top of something? Is it going to be more than 5 minutes? Is it going to be like 10, 15, 20 minutes? Like it's a long time for that. So the idea of like doing something different, like Sphinx pose, to arch backwards, right, and bring that back bend into instead of like you're kind of spine rounding this way, we're going this way to help kind of push things back again. Asking the body to spend 5 minutes doing that isn't that big of a thing. But I agree wholeheartedly about the mind and quieting the mind. So usually when I teach my classes, I talk a lot. And I talk a lot in the early stages of the class, specifically to help kind of get that going. And then eventually at the end, towards the end of class, it's like, okay, maybe you can talk a little less. And we can just sort of connect a little bit differently. And then anybody that is with me for a longer period of time kind of gets into the style a little bit and understands a little bit more about where their body is, because yin is very dependent and very individual because of those bolsters and because everybody's body is a lot different. I'm pretty flexible, I think, for a 45-year-old dude. Others are not. And so there's a lot of adjustments that wind up happening and a lot of things that happen. And when you get into yoga classes, a lot of people just sort of like, there's a big Simon Says kind of vibe where it's like, oh, if we're doing something, it's like, then I'm going to do all the things. Like, hold on, right? If you need to, let's adjust like this, right? So that it's always a little bit different. But I agree that the mental component of it is one of the most challenging parts about yin.
Fascinating. Yeah.
I'll get them in a class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's it. And I'm so new to it all. And coming from like a sports background and stuff, I find myself in a yoga class where there's still a bit of a competitive side to me, where it's like, I know I'm just learning some of these poses, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to do it. Like,
you're going to try.
Look over to the person next to me, and they've probably been doing yoga for like 10 years or 15 years or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that pose, but I have to now, because like, here I am, and I don't want to be the one person who's not doing it. So
that's a very real thing. Absolutely.
I'm sure
it's very much a part of group classes.
And then you get the other ones that are more like me, and I'm like, well, I don't feel like doing that right now. I'm going to go into child's pose. I'm going to start my
Absolutely.
Shavasana early, right? It's so
That's it.
interesting, all the different
Absolutely.
personalities you can see, like even in a group class like that, like everyone on the mat doing different things.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. And then there's me with, one eye open, just kind of looking around to see if I'm doing the right pose and I'm doing it right, and who's doing what, and if I can do it. I know eventually I will be able to, close my eyes and really get into poses for myself, like, and feel it, for what my body needs and what my body's telling me it can and can't do. But right now I'm, like I say, maybe a little bit competitive, and I'm just trying to do all the poses regardless of how it feels. So.
Well, you're still new, you're still learning, you're still experiencing, right? That's a big part. That's a hard one to disconnect from, right? Because you're new and you're excited about it, and your partner's doing it, and so it's exciting, and it's enjoyable because it's a part of fitness, and it seems like one that has been missing from it was missing from my life for years and years and years. And so it felt like it had been, like it was a crime that I wasn't taught yoga as a kid.
Right.
Like it was just, that's how it really felt when I started learning about this and understanding that there's so much information and knowledge here that, like, I'm not a fan of running. If you ever see me running, keep up. And so and so, like, going for a run in the middle of the day as a kid and then like going to class or whatever is like, no, it would have been much more useful for me to learn to learn more about yoga, especially as a child. So I get it. Perhaps you could use an intention to, like, if you start to feel yourself kind of going away or feel a little bit competitive thing, you can use it to kind of come back and reconnect with your body. Yeah. You can always work on alignment and stop holding your breath.
That's a really good point. Yeah. That's definitely me. Yeah. But you're right. Again, as someone involved with sports, I wish there was something I discovered, years ago and tied into all the other sports that I was training for and doing and participating in, just for how, like, I can already see how it's going to allow me to be more in tune with my body and what my body's telling me. And therefore my output with all the other activities that I'm involved with and have an interest in and want to do, it's only going to enhance, those aspects of my life, which, I'm kind of excited for, but it'll take some time to get there. So, I want to ask about we want to ask about the journaling aspect, because
yes,
it's been a big part of our life. I personally, I love to write. I've always enjoyed writing. It has been a very therapeutic thing for myself in the past, kind of overcoming challenges, but also in a positive light as well, with just writing about great experiences and things like that. So, we're both huge fans of journaling, but we want to hear more about your journey in the journaling aspect. It was good.
Okay, so let's see. Father's Day 2 years ago, I think, we were getting, as a family, we've been into martial arts really a lot since I retired. So I retired a couple of years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago now. And so but the kids had been training for a while before then. I really got into jiu-jitsu intensely, maybe about 3 and a bit years ago. So 2 years ago for Father's Day, my kids got me a journal. It was one that they just picked up on Amazon. It had like a prompt and a couple things and like a list of training partners and like a couple things. And I hadn't previously been journaling a lot. I did a lot in my youth, and then seen missing. Now here we are. And so in learning and in starting to, in really understanding, like, jiu-jitsu is hard and like really hard and really complicated. And there's a lot going on. Particularly as a white belt, you're just a spaz, and there's so much going on that is really challenging, because you're like quite literally like getting into a fight with another person on purpose, and
like goes against my natural instincts.
And like, let's talk about involuntary yoga. Like, that's jiu-jitsu, right? So very much, how you're bending, you're getting bent in around in those sort of places. And so I got this. So my family got me this journal, And I even look back at the notes and it's just like gibberish because it's only like a couple of things. And like I trained with this person or I did this or I did that. And it was kind of like, man, I don't even like, it wasn't that I wasn't enjoying it. I was using it. I was using it a lot. I was enjoying the whole thing. It's sort of like there's more here, right? Like there's more I can do this better. And so as someone who used to train a lot in the military and also instruct others and like teach on PLQ and teach on leadership courses and all those sort of other things, like one of the first things I acquired in my career was a laminator because, you know, like it rains all the time and we're always like the infantry doesn't happen in nice weather. And so right? Like you got to laminate your stuff. And so building training materials and building pro formas and building those sort of things that you can use to work off of time and time again when you're doing these sort of things is something that I used to do a lot of. And so like I can do this. So I'm gonna figure this out. And so I did. I published a training journal and then a competition journal. So the training journal was specific to jiu-jitsu and it's 1 page per training day. So it's got like your date, your instructor, your intention for the class, so setting your intentions, like massive part of like mindfulness and a part of things. So I believe strongly in intentions and the intention. So setting one of those and then what information is taught. And I've kind of gone through it with several iterations and I'm really happy with where we're at. Found a couple of cool images on Etsy or whatever and like bought them with the licenses and off we go. And then I started competing and competing, I was an absolute disaster on competition day. Like my energy was all over the place. It was super intense, like a mess, just all over the place. And so rather than like, how am I going to learn a lot from this experience? And how am I going to do this? Because I can't remember all the things, right? It's like, as soon as I walk into the stadium, walk into the mats, it's like, let's hop in the black and then see where it goes. Right. And so I just couldn't figure out how to really harness a lot of that energy and figure it out. And so let's write another journal. So I did. And so that journal's 4 pages per. So it's like a pre-plan and then your day of, and then like how your fights went and then a review. And so from the competition and from journaling in the competition, I went from not winning and learning to gold medals and winning the Ontario, like being the Ontario gold medalist for my age and weight and rank, which was pretty rad. And that was something that happened last year.
Wow.
Nice.
And I did that because, thank you. I did that because I was journaling about it, right? I realized that middleweight is not where I want to be fighting. These dudes are enormous. Right? They're so much bigger than me. And so, how do I want my age and weight? Because you weigh in like 15, 20 minutes before your fight. So it's not like I can weigh in the day before and I can just, dehydrate my body, cut weight to everything and then rehydrate everything. It's not like that at all. So it's like, okay, I got to manage my weight and then also energy. And so what am I eating? Carbohydrates. How does that work? How does that affect? Because the gi weighs 4.5 pounds. And so in training, and you got to weigh in your gi. And so it's like, okay, what's my lightest underwear kind of thing, right? Like, or maybe I'm not going to wear it, maybe I'm not. It's like different rules for different competitions kind of thing, right? But you gotta make weight, because if you don't, you're immediately disqualified. So in building those journals, and then it's like, okay, well, I've got those 2, so let's see what else I can build. And so now I've gone from kind of 1 or 2 journals in 2023. We published a few, and now I've got like 24 different ones. There are a bunch of different ones. So I've got yoga ones and mental health and wellness ones and daily winning journals. And I'm working on collaborations with other people for different ones that are there. And this year I've got a goal for 10 net new journals to publish this year. Yeah. And so one of the reasons why we're down here is on this writing retreat, and we've got 5 more or less ready to go, and we'll be publishing them shortly. So I'm big into building these things that I like, that I want to use. And we found that there's not just a market for this, but also like an activity that's not screen based, that is like the physical act of writing and putting this information out, whether it's good or it's bad or it's not. These are journals that I want to use. And if I want to use these things, maybe somebody else does. And so in doing that, I've sort of figured out what are the practices that I want to have and what are the things that I really like doing, and can I build a journal that can help me be that accountability partner to it. And so the yin yoga instructor book, Ali, that I sent you, I hope you like it.
I do.
It's helping me build my class, and it's helping me, what are the cues that I want to use? What are the things that I want to say? And what are the things that are important for me to use? So every single one of my journals I use fairly often, including like my next mental health appointment, like all of the books that I have, I use them because I find them valuable, and I love the practice of journaling and writing.
That's awesome. I like that. It sounds like, you've created a template for, many others that want to get words out on with pen and paper or whatever, but just don't know, like, even personally myself, sometimes I'll sit down with a paper and pen in front of me, but I'll have a blank, kind of say like, where do I start? What am I going to start with? I want to get this story or this chapter in my life or this experience out. How do I start it? To me, it sounds like you've created some really great templates for, providing that opportunity of, here's this sort of,
like a little bit of structure.
Yeah, exactly. Structure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, kudos to that. I'm pretty excited to see what comes out. You've got 10 coming out this year?
10 net new ones.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're going to add to the ones that we have, edit a little bit of some of the ones that we already have, but 10 new ones is what I want to do. So we want to just put out new books and put out new ones that we're training for, and hopefully that people will find useful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if people want to purchase any of these journals, where can they do that?
On my website, mentalfitnessjournals.com.
Amazing.
Cool. Yeah.
Yes, we're also on Instagram, so throw us a follow.
Yes,
nice.
Exactly.
Nice. How much time do you typically set aside for journaling, like in a day? Like how much journaling would you do?
It depends. So I train martial arts pretty much every day. So I do multiple things. So usually I journal in the class, and then usually I spend 5-10 minutes afterwards noting down any specific points or notes. I'll spend maybe 5 minutes or so on a daily gratitude practice, or the year of winning journal that I have. And then it sort of depends. Some of it is situation dependent. So like if I'm having a bumpy time, or there's something going on mental health wise, then I'll take all the time I need to do that one. And so, but I do like to set timers where possible, particularly if I'm experiencing challenges on something. Then it's like, okay, I'm going to set a timer and I'm going to spend 5 minutes. I'm just going to get everything out that I want to get out. And then when the timer goes off, I'm going to stop. Mm-hmm. But it really depends on what's going on with the activity, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I like the timer idea.
I was going to say, yeah, I do like that idea as well.
Because it breaks it down instead of you're like, well, where do I start? And then I get writing for too long or whatever. It's almost like, well, it's only 5 minutes, so I can write something for 5 minutes. Like, I don't know, it just takes the pressure off of it or something.
You can always come back to it.
Yeah.
Right? You can, particularly if it's negative stuff, I find. And so if there's something, so like, but with that one, I'll set a timer for like I'll set 2 timers though. So I'll do like 3 minutes bad and like 5 minutes good. Or something like that, right? So if there's something going on that's challenging, that's uncomfortable, that I'm experiencing some discomfort, then I'll like, okay, I'm going to sit with it, but I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to get dedicated 3 minutes. I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to write all the things down. Then I'm going to spend 5 minutes doing something else. So I'm containing them both.
Yes. Yeah. And giving them both a space to be, but with a time limit. So you're not going to stay there all day.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, okay, I can leave it all there. I can leave it
there and come back to it, and it's like a mental release for you too, because you've got it out. Yeah, that's very smart.
I like it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting. This year, I think Ali and I have almost reverse roles. Usually I'm the one with like 20 questions and a very structured sort of podcast setup here or whatever. Tonight, I come in and I'm just kind of freewheeling, just kind of asking like whatever comes to mind questions. And then I look over and I'm like, I think Ali's got questions that she actually probably wants to ask.
Oh boy, okay, let's get into it.
Yeah. Well, we've covered some of them.
Yeah, which I figured it would.
But one of the questions I did have was, what advice do you have for anybody who's wanting to get into yoga or start doing some more mindfulness and meditation and stuff in their kind of daily life?
Oh boy.
It's a big question.
It's a big question. So mindfulness meditation. so you got to start. And so, like, there's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of traffic around how to kind of compound habits and do sort of things. But like, start by carving a time for yourself to do just for yourself, right? So that way it's not yoga time, or it's not meditation or mindfulness time. It's just yours. You can fill with it. You can fill with it whatever you want, without any pressure of anything. You just get to carve out your own time for your own things with no pressure. And so you don't always have to do yoga, but if you carve out your own time and space for something, and that becomes successful, then you can start filling it with whatever you want. And so you can fill it with, sometimes you're going to read, sometimes you go for a walk, sometimes you're going to do whatever you like to do. But a lot of the time it's finding that dedicated, routine, habitual time. And then we can start doing things where, like, we can layer stuff onto it. I'm a huge fan of like uniforms and clothes. And so dedicated clothes is another way where you can sort of like signal, okay, now it's time for me to do this. And so now it's time for this to happen. So you're sort of like layering a few things to make sure that, like, I'm going to wear all my Mad Hatter gear. So I'm going to spend time being, mindful of that. I wear my favorite stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's ways to be able to layer some of that. So I'd say to start, find a habitual time for yourself for whatever you're looking for. And then you can start to layer it for there. Yoga, it's hard to like cook and do yoga at the same time. So, but it being mindful and meditative while cooking can be a thing. So those two might not layer as well as you might think. So that, that kind of time might be a little bit challenging. So, but start finding and get a friend involved if you can, because community and having another person do it is always exciting, and is when you have someone to share it with, you have someone to share the difficulties and challenges, but also the successes and the wonderful parts about it as well. And so to start, I would say do that, right? Like, find the habitual time that's yours, and then start layering in time for that.
Yeah, smart.
That is smart. Yeah. I can see the military background coming through with some of these tips and some of these things that you've created. There's definitely the background is there. So it's pretty neat.
Awesome. Some of my vernacular it's still there from time to time. Good copy, Roger that kind of nonsense comes out on occasion, and then also some of the swearing and some of the other things. But military experience is you kind of know, right? When you meet another person, you're like, fisherman recognizes fisherman kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, it's great. Did you have anything else for Derek?
No, I think that was. I think we've covered my questions like just throughout our chat. Did you have any more?
No, I knew that we were gonna kind of free flow along here and have a really interesting conversation and an interesting talk. I mean, we met, like I say, through good people and just this community growing more and more. And that's exactly what we're doing with the podcast, and having someone like you on, is that you're obviously on the path to betterment, and you're obviously using what you've experienced in life to create sort of a better, future this year and beyond, and for your family and those around you. And that's exactly what we're trying to promote here is we not only want to see, better things for ourselves and those close to us, but we want to see just kind of a better world, really. I mean, it sounds like cliche and, a big lofty goal, but it's a reality, right? Like, we're all trying to do things that maybe can help one or two other people, and they can pass it on, and they can help others, and just have some more positivity in this in the crazy world that we're in. And that's kind of the vibe, in the sense that I get off of everything that you're doing, especially when you first started talking about sitting down with a family and recapping 2024, and then looking ahead into 2025, and kind of what the outlook and what the goals could be and that sort of thing. It just kind of shows that, that's the kind of world that you want to create and that you want to live in for your family, but for those around you. And I think it's fantastic. And
thank you so much. It's evident that what you guys are doing, and I'm really happy that I was able to be a part of it. And I look forward to what you guys are up to. And it's wonderful to see creativity and to see the guests that you guys are having on. And now I get to throw my name on that list too.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and it's great. And we're excited to see what 2025 has to offer from here on out. And
yes, we're going to make a plan for the podcast this year.
That's right. Yes. We're going to sit
very
down.
excited. We're going to sit down and make a schedule.
Start journaling and we're going to start making out a structured sort of plan.
Excellent.
Yes.
If
Yes.
I can be a resource for you guys in the future, I would love to do this again for sure.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Certainly will. Yeah.
You're always welcome.
Yeah. No, well, thanks again for coming on and sharing all that wealth of information and knowledge with us, and everyone that's listening as well. And we will certainly have you back on, and we'll chat more. I know we can chat for hours and things. So
excellent. And when I can, and I'll try to make it up to Peterborough and make it to one of your hot yoga classes.
That'd be awesome.
That would be so fun.
Yeah, really cool
for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Great night.
Yes. Yeah. Don't. So we're gonna quit recording now.
Okay.
But just don't